protocol officer to escort His Excellency Mr. Denis Bećirović, Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, to his seat at the Council table. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's provisional...
Madam President, distinguished Excellencies, at the beginning of my address, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you, Madam President, a successful presidency over the United Nations Security Council. It is my duty to implement the foreign policy of the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is founded upon our constitution, laws, and other state documents. Our foreign policy goals are to join NATO and the European Union. Bosnia and Herzegovina has made significant steps towards Euro-Atlantic and European integration. However, without the externally initiated obstructions and blockades facing our country, our progress could have been even greater. All wars in the long history of Bosnia and Herzegovina were caused by the aggression of other countries. And that was the case from 1992 to the end of 1995. This was also confirmed by the UN courts. Therefore, the essential problem of Bosnia and Herzegovina is related to external attempts to weaken, divide, and ultimately destroy our country. In May of this year, the UN General Assembly adopted the resolution on the International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide committed in Srebrenica. After the final judgments of the highest UN courts on the genocide against Bosniaks, it was very important that the UN General Assembly also adopted this resolution. We must not forget that the genocide against the Bosniaks was the culmination of the aggression against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Unfortunately, the leadership of the Republic of Serbia does not respect the judgments of the United Nations courts, nor the mentioned resolution of the United Nations General Assembly. I would like to remind that Serbia is the only country in the world to have violated the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Destructive policy of Serbia is followed by the authorities of the Republika Srpska entity. Recently, they have introduced into the curriculum of primary schools a content that glorifies convicted war criminals Radovan Karadžić and Ratko Mladić. They are not heroes. They are convicted war criminals found guilty of genocide, crimes against humanity, and other war crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, the authorities of the Republika Srpska entity are dangerously threatening the foundations of the Dayton peace agreement. They publicly advocate unilateral destruction of the Dayton agreement, renewal of the criminal project of Greater Serbia, destruction of the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and violations of international and national law. These are not just my personal observations. On June 20th, 2024, the Peace Implementation Council's steering board unanimously concluded that the ruling coalition in the Republika Srpska entity carries out flagrant attacks against the General Framework Agreement for Peace, attacks the constitutional and legal order of Bosnia and Herzegovina, attacks the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina, undermines the state, its authorities, and its multi-ethnic character. Witnesses of the Dayton Agreement who are actively engaged in the Peace Implementation Council and the United Nations must put on red alert regarding the threats to peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the region. It is very important that the Peace Implementation Council's steering board adopted a clear interpretation of the three important elements for ensuring peace and stability. Sovereignty belongs to Bosnia and Herzegovina as a single state whose territorial integrity is guaranteed, among other things, by the General Framework Agreement for Peace. Entities within Bosnia and Herzegovina are not states. They exist solely based on the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina and do not have their own sovereignty. The international community maintains the necessary instruments to ensure implementation of the General Framework Agreement for Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, the leadership of the Republic of Serbia is aggressively interfering in the internal affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as some other countries in the region. One of the pieces of evidence supporting my claim is the declaration adopted by the so-called All-Serb Assembly in Belgrade on June 8 of this year. In addition to its adoption by the so-called All-Serb Assembly, the declaration was also adopted in the Parliament of Serbia and the Parliament of the Republika Srpska entity. The so-called All-Serb Assembly cannot be supreme to the state bodies of Bosnia and Herzegovina, nor it has the authority to declare the military neutrality of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Recently, one of the deputy prime ministers of the government of the Republic of Serbia openly admitted that the process of unification of Serbia and the Republika Srpska has started. This is dangerous and absolutely unacceptable. It is time to tell the truth here in the United Nations Security Council about Serbia's real intention. The essential goal of the leadership of Serbia is the gradual Anschluss of the Republika Srpska entity to Serbia. They are trying to achieve this goal by abusing the parallel relations. Let me remind you that the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina clearly states that parallel relations with neighboring countries can be established in accordance with the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Declaration of the so-called All-Serb Assembly is contrary to the Dayton Agreement and the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Due to these and the numerous other reasons, the High Representative was obliged to abolish this anti-Dayton declaration. It is not just a declarative act, but a dangerous greater state program document. Unfortunately, the High Representative has not done it yet. I call the international community, especially the European Union, to clearly condemn the reactivation of Greater Serbia project. This concerns not only Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also the entire Europe. Let's stop timely the revival of the dangerous concept, one people, one assembly. It is especially unacceptable that the leadership of Serbia does not respect international law, nor the final and binding judgments of the Constitutional Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina on the state property of Bosnia and Herzegovina. State property is an inseparable part of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In Dayton, the infamous president of Serbia, Slobodan Milošević, tried to divide the state property of Bosnia and Herzegovina between the entities. Milošević did not achieve this goal during the aggression against Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as during the negotiations in Dayton. Therefore, the international community must not allow this war objective to be achieved in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider it important that UN Security Council adopted the decision to extend the authorization of the EUFOR Althea mandate. The EUFOR presence is important for the preservation of peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also in the region. Additionally, NATO's message that NATO will not allow a security vacuum in Bosnia and Herzegovina is very important. Let's not forget, NATO's mandate in Bosnia and Herzegovina is precisely defined by Annex 1A of the Dayton Agreement. The future of Bosnia and Herzegovina is linked to the implementation of the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. Bosnia and Herzegovina is obliged to ensure the individual rights of citizens, not only the collective rights of the people. It is time for retrograde forces to stop obstructing the implementation of the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights. Pressure on the European Court of Human Rights due to latest judgments in the Slaven Kovačević case is unacceptable. We must eliminate every form of discrimination against citizens, including discrimination based on ethnicity and place of residence. It is our obligation to harmonize the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina with international law and generally accepted democratic principles and practices. In such process, it is necessary to strengthen democratic and multi-ethnic state of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina accepted the European Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms as part of its international obligations within the Dayton Agreement, thereby assuming responsibility for the protection of human rights according to the highest European standards. Bosnia and Herzegovina does not need selective application of this convention. The Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina prescribes direct application of the European Convention on Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, prioritizing it over any other law. Bosnia and Herzegovina needs democratic solutions to overcome current challenges. In this sense, I believe we should focus on consistent and comprehensive implementation of all aspects of the Dayton Agreement, harmonization of the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina in accordance with the requirements of the European Court for Human Rights, acceptance of the EU acquis. My country needs a political system that will ensure equal rights and better future for all citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of my address to the UN Security Council, I would like to especially emphasize that it is very important for my homeland, Bosnia and Herzegovina, to ensure the necessary preconditions that will guarantee the security of all citizens. Unfortunately, we are witnessing an enormous proliferation of offensive weapons in the neighboring countries. After the genocide, crime against humanity, and joint criminal enterprises of the 1990s, Bosnia and Herzegovina should be enabled to have the necessary defense capacities in accordance with international and national law. This is a joint obligation of both Bosnia and Herzegovina and the international community. Thank you for your attention.